LJL fans, we're here for game two, day one of spring. We've had our previous champions, the Clash of Titans in DFM versus Rascal Jester. Now we look to go to two teams that have reinvented themselves for the 2022 season.
Yeah.
We're looking at Sengoku, a team that struggled a bit last year, that has subbed out 3 members, so big changes, versus a Crest Gaming act that struggled in summer, also looking to reinvent themselves in spring.
Yeah, if DFM versus Rascal Jester is like a premium sort of Kobe beef or something, it's got all the lovely marbling. This is sushi that you're buying from a petrol station at 3 o'clock in the morning.
But it tastes so good, middle
It
cut.
does
It tastes
taste so
good.
These are a couple teams that, like you mentioned, were on the weaker side of things in summer. I think both of their ceilings are actually a lot higher than what they ended up showing, and they have made some changes coming into 2022. And I'm actually pretty happy with both of them. I'm going to start with CGA because obviously closer to my heart. Nahun is gone. We don't know where he's gone. He's just disappeared off this ethereal plane apparently. Been replaced by Kaito, their mid laner from Academy. Big Zoe, big LeBlanc player, but we'll have to see if he's got anything beyond that. And then in the bot lane, Milan is gone, back down to Academy, and Alchemy has retired. So they're bringing in Hybrid from LCK Challengers, has been doing good there, was also on the main KT roster team in spring, and Nema, who we saw absolutely popping off with Axis last split.
Nemo did do really well with Axis last split. Talking of doing well with Axis last split, on our other side today, Sengoku Gaming, you've mentioned it to us in the break and really highlighted it. The other half of that famed Axis bot lane that did so well, that pushed them to that 3rd place finish last summer, Honey in the AD carry position, will face off against his previous support Nemo today.
Yeah, and that's really sort of one of the matchups that we want to highlight, right? It's so exciting, both of these incredibly skilled players. And the key thing for me about Honey is he was a hyper carry AD carry in a meta where hyper carries didn't define the meta. I think that's a very important point to make. LJL had strong AD carry showings in 2021, but AD carries are even stronger now. This guy was playing Jinx when it wasn't as popular and still doing insane amounts of damage on it, was globally leading DPM metrics for weeks in summer. And I think he's on a team that can actually enable him. NT is going to be a support, so he's a strong player as well. But there have been a couple of other changes within this Sengoku side. Ramune going out with Jet coming in the mid lane.
With the loss of Crash in the jungle, now once will play, and Ramune out for Jet, we've lost a lot of historic LJL talent here. Oak, what do you normally look for in a team that has subbed out its entire core in their first game?
We're going to look for clean drafts. So making sure these teams have a unified draft front, know exactly what they're going to be playing for. And I think Honey is going to make that very easy, especially with current meta. So we already mentioned the Jinx briefly and how strong this champion is at the moment. But other picks like the Aphelios and even stuff like the Ezreal or the Varus that the LJL is well known for can slot in very easily into a lot of different drafts. So I think specifically my eyes are on NT and how he can work through, because this is a player that actually spent a lot of time on Thresh, Leona, Braum, these kind of more frontline champions. Is there going to be any rotation into, especially with Honey now for playing for you, is there going to be any rotation into enchanters, or are they going to stick with that and try and draft some easy front to back comps and see how they can get some space for Honey to do his thing?
Clean, clear, and simple. Play around Honey, maybe with a beefy front line, is the prescription from Oak. Middlecock, anything you particularly want to see CGA pull out in their first game with this reinvented setup?
So CJ have, as long as I've been following at least, been a team that has always nearly been good, always nearly had those pop-off moments. We've got a stat from summer where they actually had a better win rate when behind at 15 minutes than when they were ahead. Because this team just somehow always able to find themselves a win, even in circumstances that shouldn't necessarily suggest they get it. I kind of don't want to see that this split. I want them to win games that they should win, and if they could win games that they should lose, I'm okay with that too, but I just want something a bit more solid. I want something a bit less erratic. Obviously, that's going to be difficult when you're subbing out your mid laner, who was your most consistent member last split, and you've got an entire new bot lane. Yes, I think it is a pretty sizable upgrade on paper, but team cohesion is the most important thing for me here. Getting the win would be nice, but as long as it's a strong performance, as long as it's a unified and united performance, I think that's key.
So, Middlecott is looking for, hopefully, an internal pressure to make pressure of a gold lead for your opponents. It's hopefully the way CGA will go. You want that pressure to come from within, you know, the desire to do well, your gameplay, and overpowering your opponents instead of being squashed. And having to rally together to push it back around. Is there anything you're particularly looking for Nemo as a part of that star-studded Axis roster that really took it to the LJL Titans? We've mentioned for Sengoku, for Unti, we want to see sort of frontliners maybe. He's known for these engaged champions, that beefy line in front of Honey. Anything particularly from Nemo you want to see as he slots into this Crest Gaming Act side?
I mean, I think those same frontliners, especially the Thresh and the Leona, I think will actually be hopefully hotly contested this split, or this game at least, because yeah, he played a lot of this as well. And remember, you know, Nemo, one of the most consistent supports. I'll be hoping to see him on the Thresh if possible. Outside of that, it's a bit of a question mark with Hybrid, but you know, those are the key picks I'm looking towards.
So no strict definitions, but we want to see, you know, some sort of execution, maybe along the same lines, maybe a shared champion pool.
Yeah, potentially. Never Fresh is scary though. I genuinely believe he is the best Thresh player that we've got in the LJL. Some games on him, I was looking through some clips to find some stuff, some videos that we've made. This guy could just point and click death sentences some games. Like, it's honestly just like a switch in his brain where he goes, I will hit every single hook this game. And then he does. So I want to see him on that. If I'm Sengoku, I'm thinking maybe we ban this, maybe we take this away, because not only is it a strong sort of pocket pick for Emma, it's also a very strong pick in the meta. We saw it go unpicked in our previous game, but it still offers a lot of safety for these hyper carries and a lot of versatility in the way that you actually play out these fights. That's something that Thresh has always been known for. It's why he's been such a strong pick in competitive play since his release. And so I really want to see Nema on this pick as many times as possible this split.
So, your wish is some more flexibility, hopefully some Thresh, the biological aimbot enabled, please, from Nemo this game. I'm going to take it up to the mid lane for a moment. We've got Jet coming in for Ramune, huge historic boots to fill for Jet. And on the other side from Crest, we've got, you know, a player who's come up from Academy, who's playing some LeBlanc, who's playing some Zoe, maybe a bit of a question mark for us today, has a lot to prove with that promotion. How do you guys see this one going out? Is there anything special you want to see from either of these players? We'll go to Oak first.
Yeah, the different play styles is going to be the big thing to know here. So it's going to be questioning that LeBlanc Zoe player versus actually somebody who played a lot of bruises in the mid lane. I think the Lee Sin was a big one, right? But the Renekton, which we saw in game 1, is that going to pop up here as well? That's going to be it.
With that anticipation on those champions, our pick and ban is ready. Sengoku Gaming versus Crest Gaming Act. Two teams look to reinvent themselves, look to get on the board and really push as hard as they can to get started in spring. Gentlemen, take it away.
Let's go into pick and ban. I am so ready for this one, Oak. CJ, one of my favorite teams to watch. Sengoku, one of my favorite teams to watch from summer as well. Mostly because they kept losing. This is the benefits of an unofficial broadcast. I'm allowed to be biased. But we are into the pick and ban here. Corki and Akshan removed by CGA. Sengoku taking away the Zeri and the Caitlyn. So already these marksmen are being pinched significantly.
Yeah, and very similar bans from game 1, and something I wouldn't be surprised to see all week, to be honest. These champions are so dominant, so easily blindable, and the Karma taken as well. It's like watching game 1 again, to be honest.
Yeah.
This does leave a couple of jungle picks, which are remaining open. So Zenzao's one of the big ones, but also Hecarim, who's really good right now, especially on 12.2 with the Chem Tank. Will we see this slotted into draft at any point?
Yeah, and I mean, it would sort of fit sort of Kassin and once his playstyle, right? These are both junglers that have been around a little bit. Kassin has acclimatized himself to the league and loves playing stuff like the Xin Zhao, going aggressive, diving into the enemy jungle. We won't be seeing any Renekton at least for this game, as Sengoku did ban that out with their final pick. Jinx is still available. The Aphelios as well, and Hybrid is going to opt towards that.
And this is a fantastic first blind if you're opting towards something like the Thresh, which you were so eager to see on Nemo. I'm really happy with how this goes into, though. This does mean that the Xin Zhao is going to be given away from our Xin Zhao player from Kassin.
And I mean, it has been a key pick for him. Oftentimes this summer, he went a little bit too aggressive, too eager to find those advantages, and would sort of get caught with his hand in the cookie jar a little bit. But regardless, very, very strong jungler. And there we have it. Jinx locked in for Honey. This is going to be a good one.
And this means now we're going to be looking straight towards potential support picks as jungle does get counterpicked here. We see the Jarvan come in, a very reliable engage source coming out, and then on top of the Thresh, so good. This means we can play really aggressively with those cataclysms in combination with Thresh having so much follow-up CC, and can also lantern out if needed to create huge AoE points for a comp. I love to see this kind of draft come in. SG immediately looking to find their own answer in this slot just before bans come in, and they're hovering. I think the Nasus is unlikely. It looks like they're going to be opting into the Kench instead. Something we saw game one. We saw the Jinx and Kench and how much potential utility they can have when it was faced with an incredibly dive heavy comp. It suffered just a little bit, but you know, we're seeing a bit of a different comp come out. That Kench can be a lifesaver in regards to how Cataclysm can be used. So an answer found maybe.
It's a strange interaction because champions like Tahm Kench are great into limited engage, but you can only use the Devour once. And once it's down, whilst it does give you a massive shield, if there are still multiple threats onto your AD carry, doesn't necessarily mean as much. And I think CGA have actually brought multiple threats here. This is one of the most flexible, I think, first three rotations that you can go for. Aphelios obviously offers a lot of utility with the different guns. And then Jarvan and Thresh both have kits that really offer you so much. And I think Sengoku are a little bit more limited in what they want to do. So how do you feel like both of these teams want to complement the picks that they've already got for themselves?
I think, well, I mean, looking for CJ first, kind of finding a little bit more damage or burst could be a really good option when you're faced into this Jinx. Obviously, you know, playing into the Kench could be relatively scary for that. So we're going to see how Kaito decides to draft into that, especially because Syndra taken away from him. Gonna be kind of looking towards the other bans as well. As for example, the Janna was taken away from CGA, which means their draft is limited just a little bit more, and that's definitely a lock-in for this patch. If nobody's aware, this is obviously 12.2. So this Akali build, especially, I mean, obviously has a couple of options. You can always go into the Riftmaker if you want to, but the Chem Punk has been the key build here, and this can be put into both top and mid lane. A load of damage, a load of HP, very, very strong.
And difficult to kill. One of the counter picks that we have been seeing into the Akali is the Gragas, though. Obviously, a load of AoE spells can hit the Akali while she is in that shroud. So if she wants to make an aggressive play, it can get disengaged. And the Vex pick as well for Kaito, another champion that is oh so good against divers. And now Sengoku, maybe this has thrown a bit of a wrench in their plans.
Suddenly their pick options or their initial dash options can be so limited. They are hovering the Camille at the moment, but I'd be surprised to see it, and instead they go for the Graves. So this can be used in a variety of different positions in terms of not only build but also lane status. Well, they're probably going to end up sticking it in the top side. It does mean that at any point it can decide to either play split push, change its build. We have two builds that are currently within meta that I'm sure we'll get to talk about in detail once we get into the game. And this means that you can optimize into looking to play around with squishies and burst them in a single rotation, or play extended fights and look to repeatedly pressure out this Gragas.
Yeah, I think extended fights will kind of be the name of the game when you've got Honey on your team, because we've already seen the power of the Jinx. You get one reset and you can kind of just clean it through the rest of the fight. It's a bit of a... I'd say it's a bit more of an asymmetric, a bit more of a risky draft for Sengoku. CGA, it feels a lot more standard with their picks.
Yeah, they've definitely opted into some key comforts as well as drafting a very united comp, something that we really picked out for something that they may want to do. And that Sengoku might actually want to be looking towards as well. But Sengoku, as you mentioned, gone for a bit of a riskier comp. The advantage of this, though, is that they've got Jet onto one of the dominant champions on this patch.
Yes.
This is a really important player, or at least, especially because for week one, this is how you really establish your dominance. So getting on the Akali, proving your value, especially against maybe one of the weaker players on CGA, means a lot for the upcoming split.
And importantly as well, we've got Nemor on Fresh too. And I'm gonna make a bet with you, Oak. We are gonna see either a hook or a flay onto Jet out of a perfect execution at some point in this game. I've got the faith. I've got the faith. Okay.
Fantastic.
Call it CLGA. Like.
A lot of faith there. Brilliant.
A lot of faith, a lot of faith.
I mean, we're looking, we see Nima on the Thresh, but this bot lane as a whole is going to be something we're looking towards. Whilst, in game one, we saw the Aphelios using Graviton repeatedly to, whether hit or miss, to find engage options or potential engage options for DFM. And we're going to probably see that be used again here. Remember, look at the comps goals. We see just that initial pseudo engage can be so important for finding a successful fight, and with repeated dive options coming up from CGA, this single peel option from the Kench may struggle a little bit to protect Honey properly against an incredibly dive orientated comp coming up from CGA.
It can be rough. Don't you just love remote play, Oak? Second game
we
of the day.
Yeah, there we go.
Straight into a pause.
That's how it always is. I'm assuming it's ping. It's always ping.
Yeah, it's always ping.
Poor guys.
Obviously, some players playing remote. Everyone playing remote now.
Yeah.
So that does introduce issues, additional delays, competitive integrity, lots and lots of buzzwords that you read in like a LOL esports article or something, and they apply here. So we've got a bit more time to talk about what we're going through. And I think, Oak, if we take a sort of wider look out at both these teams, right, we did touch on how it was a rough year for them last time around. Definitely a rough summer. They've come in with these revamped rosters. I don't think people are particularly hot on either of the teams right now. They've definitely got good players, but one of the things that has recently been a stumbling block for CGA and Sengoku is that those good players have never quite been able to elevate that team to the level that they need to challenge the sort of top contenders in the league.
It's always been a big question mark in terms of how, we have players with specific play styles, how well they can they mesh with each other. And I think, especially when I'm looking at Crest Gaming, first of all, I'm seeing how Kassin can really affect the map and find continual leads, because as you mentioned previously, gold lead when behind was their successful 5 point. We're hoping this season that when they find a gold lead, they can play through it successfully. And Kassim was a big tool for that early game, right?
He was, and I don't know, doth my eyes deceive me, Caster Oak? That is a lethal tempo on the Jarvan?
Oh. Yeah, it is. That is lethal tempo.
That is. Okay. So, do you know what? Yeah, I've dropped this on you. Do you want to run us through that?
Yeah. I mean, it's something. Jarvan has a lot of different build options. I think penetration Jarvan is the one I'm normally used to. But Lethal Tempo definitely, remember this is 12.2, so Lethal Tempo got some changes in 12.3 to reduce its early game threat. They introduced a scaling component to the rune, so instead of getting a flat amount of attack speed, you get increased attack speed per level when you get those auto attacks in. What a just disgusting champion. Get it off my screen.
So this is something that a couple of top laners in LJL have done in the past. Notably, Ebby, yes, we're doing this already. Mm-hmm. Sacking the first wave, going, I'm not going to take these range minions, but what I'm going to do is deny the enemy their experiences in the bot lane at level 2 hit for Honey and Parenti as they're going to go aggressive, but Kassin, with a very nice counter gank, means that it's just going to be flash traded on Honey for Nemers.
Yeah, but I think, you say fantastic counter, but Honey and Enti, because they find so much HP for so early, Kassin's whole clear is a little bit stunted now because he has to show bot side, he gets to show how many camps he's done too. So once now has complete knowledge of where his clear is going to be, knows whether he wants to contest him on Scuttle depending on how Jet and Paz are set up in their lanes. I think actually a big win for Sengoku.
Yeah, drawing that early pressure and not getting anything out of the Jarvan. I mean, we've seen Jarvans previously, not in this league, but in many others, get put behind in the early game and never really able to affect the map at all. Once now, wrapping around for a gank in the mid lane onto Kaito, does have that passive ready, so the fear is possible. Will go down onto once, he throws out, the wind becomes lightning and isn't able to find anything more. Now Kassin in the top side will get spotted out with this ward. The flag and drag doesn't connect, and neither team has decided whether they actually want to take this fight. Jet just trading with that 5-point strike up against Kaito, but will back away.
It looks like Enti's also managing to get spotted out in the bot side jungle, and a lot of rotations through mid lane for essentially nothing. Just fishing for a couple of things, and best place to be fishing is in the river. So
I have heard that.
Yeah. It's got fishes in it. And the duck that shall not be named.
What is it? Socks Off.
You can't name it.
Consumer as well, Devour Breadcrumbs, something like that.
Yeah.
It's got loads of different names. I've heard Socks Off. I've heard Michael, which it seems like just two very different vibes there.
Feels like a Michael to me, though. I don't know. I knew a Michael in school who was very mean. Very nasty
was he
little
a
boy.
duck?
He wasn't a duck. No, he was a human male.
Oh,
yeah.
those are the
Those
worst.
are the worst. Yeah. With once rotating into his top side, he's gone through top clear, but actually bot scuttle has yet to be taken. Resets coming in for both support and AD carries. I didn't realize this. Everybody's gone for a reset other than their mid laners. And top lane as well. So Honey opting for double sword boots, whereas Hybrids opted for double swords. Whoa, what's it called? Dagger. Oh my god.
Dagger.
My brain just went middle court.
It just completely gone. Well, do you know what? I hope no one builds like the slowing item, the rooting item in mid lane, as I still don't know what that's called.
Everfrost.
Kassin hovering around. Thank you very much. Kassin
Looking
hovering. Nema
Oh.
throws out a hook. He's not got the aimbot on today. Don't worry, guys.
He didn't have vision.
New split. He's still trying to find the switch. Okay.
It's a 50-50.
New split. Let it go. Let it go.
It's fine. Anyway, once actually, luckily enough, gets a really easy clear point from this because unlike Kassin, who straight from those Krugs, he went through to bot side, means that his Krugs and his Race actually end up spawning on the same timer because once gets a really easy clear point, and I think that general lack of vision on where once is really benefiting his laners. Generally, it seems like that Sengoku know where Kassin is and are able to play aggressively, and then on top of that, through that even, they found a little bit of a CS lead in those lanes.
Yeah, Paz up a couple of waves on Nap, and we didn't really talk too much about these top laners in the pregame because they've been around for so long. And hold the phone there, Nema getting aggressed onto, doesn't have a flash, and will just donate this one over in the battle between the former Axis bot lane. Honey grabs first blood.
Fantastic for them. This also secures in this first Drake. The Cloud Drake, notoriously difficult to take early, but they get access to that rotation from AD and support, and are going to pick this up as well. And this is a fantastic starting early game for SG, especially because I think a Thresh Aphelios really should be taking command of this lane.
They really should be, but they haven't been able to do it. Once has gotten down there, gotten the pressure off, and Kassin, aside from that, level 2 counter engage, have whatever you will with it, hasn't been able to make it happen. Jet now trading with those 5-point strikes and the passive autos in the mid lane has actually built a healthy CS lead for himself and picked up the Mercury treads too. So Kaito really not having a lot of fun here.
Yeah, Merc's kind of, I think, a default when you're looking at the comp that CGA have managed to draft, so I'm not surprised to see him picked out early here. A lot of people default to that, especially in the mage MU, because it means you get so much lane presence, and I think Jet is abusing that really well here. He's very eager to just shroud and walk forward to contest as much CS as possible.
And this was one of the worries that we had about Kaito coming out of Academy. looked decent there, but definitely not a player that you go LJL ready almost. And
Oh
we're
my.
seeing him suffer here. Nema jumped onto by NT, but Kassin is around. Will land a double knockup and actually blocks the super mega death rocket, saving his support by the skin of his teeth.
Nemo actually, whilst that happened and whilst we saw the Super Mega Death Rocket get blocked up by Kassin, Nemo went for a really smart hook there. If it had worked off, it would have been really clean. He tried to hook to the side to just catch Honey on that lollipop end of the death sentence. Didn't end up working out, but was pretty. I'm seeing where you're talking about because he's going for some tricky techniques.
As once is going for a tricky play onto this Herald.
His whole jungle's up, by the way. He doesn't care.
CJ have spotted this one out. Both AD carries still in the bottom side of the map, but all 8 other players in the game are here. Kassin going forward, actually gets the steal and gets the ult onto once as well. Wilbet taken down by Jet on the other side, but here comes Kaito, picks up a kill. It's a 1-for-1 so far, and the resets are not coming out though. Jet is still alive, Nema isn't. So many kills going over to Sengoku, and Kaito will be forced to run this one away, but it's not gonna happen for you, mate. I think that was a double for Paz and a double for Jet as well. Yes, you get the Herald CGA, but it costs you so much more.
Yeah, suddenly a 3k gold lead spurts out of nowhere, and this is the dangers of taking this Herald. I think we're going to get a replay on here. We're going to see actually some really aggressive play from CGA not really work out too well. So this is still fantastic to see here, and it looks like this is going to be a really successful play. Off once, getting almost immediately blown up. But look at him, managing to remain on a slither of HP as Nap and Kaito commit so much for him. This in turn means they have nothing left to fight out the rest of the fight and get picked off one by one. Ultimately, very good for Sengoku, and I think suddenly, I think especially Kaito now flashed down with a 2-killer Kali being put against in lane. It's very scary for him.
Yeah, very, very scary. One of the key things that we did see in that fight was actually the Shadow Surge, the ultimate from this Vex from Kaito, blocked by NT right at the start. So there was no possibility for him to get a reset off. And maybe if he'd been able to dive onto that backline with a little bit more ease, could have been an advantageous fight for CGA. But as it stands, like you said, gold lead for Sengoku, kill lead, objective lead as well. And I'm sorry to say, but this is looking a little bit classic CGA.
Honestly, on top of this, it's kind of, that fight is almost a prophecy for how the future fights are going to go, because you mentioned that Kaito gets the ultimate blocked by NT. This is how it panned out in the DFM Rascal Jester game as well. And when you're looking at the amount of damage, potential damage mitigation they have through the Shroud, through this Xin Zhao ulti, as well as NT being such a beefy frontliner, it's going to be very difficult for Kaito to play this aggressive Shadow Surge reset game.
We'll have to see if he's able to do it. Kassin hovering around the top side here. Nap has a lot of setup CC, and there's a fair bit of damage as well, so they could look to make this work. Cast beautifully duked away from by Paz. That was exceptional.
Yeah, those feet work. He's feeling it with the fleet footwork. He manages to dodge out the cast there, and it's just gonna.
Does he know Kassin's here?
Just.
He doesn't know. Tries to dash away. Isn't able to get out in time. But once is coming through. Can Paz buy enough time? It looks likely. Flashes away from the Cataclysm. Gets the last auto down onto Kassin. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Paz is playing this so well, and he does a fantastic job there of baiting out Kassin, repeatedly looking for that, and that exchange there specifically with the Cataclysm was so clean, fantastically played, picking up another kill now, and suddenly really asserting his dominance in the top lane. I think Nap was really waiting for this level 9 point, so he had max points in E, and he's really not been given the opportunity to get there. We're seeing, even from this aggression here, I think, look at this. Look at the Cataclysm in tandem with the ulti, immediately avoiding any follow-up damage. Fantastic from Paz.
And that just felt like the entire time Paz was going, I know exactly what you're going to do, and I know exactly how to counter it. Probably sniffing out Kassin, waiting for him in that bush, and is able to find the turnaround 3-0 and 2 now on the Graves, looking like a bona fide carry himself in a composition where we were looking at maybe the Akali and the Jinx to fulfill that role. TP coming down here. Where? Was it
The Nap
TP?
used
Oh,
TP to rotate down to bot lane to get this Herald off. On top of that, they get to secure a little bit of early pressure. So they're not playing on the back foot, even though they committed a lot to top lane. They know these ultimates are coming up again. They didn't burn any summoners, so they pick up. Not only do they pick up first tire for this team, they also have all 4 members here to pick up second Drake. So they're making no attempts to fight. Maybe starting here a little bit skirmish. Death sentence comes out.
oh, Nap is a little bit on the wrong side here. Kassin able to flag and drag away the box thrown up by Nema. Shuriken Flip doesn't connect
Really
either.
good.
So, do you know what? Credit to them, CJ, with a very strong response. Once is looking for Kaito, though, will not be able to find him. But that small ingress into the jungle just there is going to hand mid priority over to Sengoku and funnel a couple more plates into Paz.
Yeah, this is kind of that equivalent exchange for everything that's gained us lost.
Kassin goes over the wall. Jet's going to follow him into the Cataclysm, flashes away and takes out the Akali. Hybrid will be grateful to pick up that kill, but it was all engineered by Kassin.
I mean, Kassin doing a fantastic flash there. A lot of people default to immediately flashing away from the Akali, gaining as much distance as possible. Flashes towards the team instead, and this forces that first usage of the ultimate precision, first precision. It's a gold.
Perfect
Doesn't
execution.
Matter. Perfect execution.
Yeah,
My God, doesn't matter. To force this perfect execution towards his team members, Nemo's there to drop the lantern down and pick up a kill there. A little bit of overaggression from Sengoku.
A little bit there. Once did get that red buff still, but I don't think that's worth your mid laner dying.
Yeah, Jet just playing a little bit over aggressive here and a very clean pickup. And not only that, but it looks like Hybrid picks up the goal for that too. So very good from CJ, who were bleeding a little bit. Suddenly managed to stabilize just a little bit, and that was through repeated aggressive plays. They tried to make a play in top side, and Paz just played it a little bit too cleanly. But they didn't step on the. They didn't take a step back and try and reevaluate. They went straight into another proactive play through this bot side, secured this Drake in this first turret just to create a little bit more pressure on map. And now they're continuing these proactive plays and looking for this Herald. Nemo's on the rotate, but SG are already there. How are they going to stance this fight? Especially with Graves getting this shove in on top side. Lot of bleeding.
Yeah, but he's not going to be able to rotate first. Cataclysm will be coming up soon. Once dodges away from the hook, and Nema will get taken out right at the start of the fight. Kaito TP's onto some jumpers as Jet pops himself over the wall. Nap will throw him away with the cask and flashes back out of there, but Jet will follow through and pick up the kill with the 5-point strike. Herald there went down. I don't know who actually picked that one up. Well, no one quite yet, and that will despawn. But Sengoku get the fight off CJ over aggressing.
Yeah, big win. They pick up 2 kills. On top of that, they unlock top lane tier 1 too. So no tier 1s remaining. Well, I say that, but
playing with fire a little bit here. Once not quite caught out with the death sentence.
Yeah.
But this AD carry here for CGA. Not in the worst spot currently. Was able to pick up that shutdown onto Jet. Did get solo tower gold a little while ago. So should be fairly strong in the fights, but we didn't see it here.
And here we get to see who actually picked up the Herald. It does look like it's going to be opted towards CGA as Kassin's putting a lot of numbers on that. But this initial Super Mega Death Rocket onto Nebo has already been chunked out was so important. And really is the continuation of how Sengoku find a successful fight here. Alongside that, CG obviously getting very split up here. And, I mean, Jet's they're just, I mean, a combination of really good play and them being so gold ahead. This mid and top side means they get to do stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, the new LJL mid laners have been looking pretty good so far. Obviously, Yaharong in the previous game on the Renekton, and Jet this time around putting in work on the Akali. 3-1-1. Yeah, it's not the most impressive scoreline, but I think the level of play that he's been showing us has been incredibly impressive, and it means that Sengoku, first game of the year, first game of the split, built themselves a 6k gold lead. That was a little bit rude on Nema. I don't know why you're doing that, honey. Maybe feels a little bit betrayed by his ex-support, and honestly, if we're talking about who got a better side of the trade, it's looking like Honey right now. Yeah,
I mean, he's even got a Kench to peel him out whenever he needs to, like an onion. Because onions have layers and you peel them, you know? You know? Anyway, we see Paz.
We're really doing Shrek references. Kassin likes to invade. He's Possibly got a bridge too far here behind enemy lines, but if he can get a strong flank off onto Paz or onto Honey, maybe there's an angle
The
that he can
difficulty
play
with
out
catching
there.
out Paz is this build, and they're going to look for it here. Nemo's on the rotate.
Yeah, he hasn't spotted out Kassin and doesn't want to go for
Don't
it.
opt for it.
It's fair
No,
enough.
it's very
Honey's going
scary.
to take out this mid lane tower and get even more gold funneled into him. CGA, don't really know what you were doing there, guys.
Yeah, it's because, well, Paz is so strong, and this specific build that he's opted into here, the Bloodthirster in combination with the Shield Bow, means that unless you have high DPS on him, he will lifesteal through everything. And I'm not kidding there. He will literally just sustain through everything. Gragas does not have enough damage to follow that up, especially with the Chem Tank. And that means that pick options to him are incredibly limited. They're probably waiting for him to group up, as Kassin's going to look for the steal here. Chompers.
Yeah, goes into the Dragon Pit, but will go down for his sins. Jet now hunting onto Nema, who is forced to flash away. And every time Sengoku grabs something, they get a kill to boot with it, and that means that they can push the envelope just that little bit further. 4 members grouping now in the mid lane, focusing onto this tower.
And I'm repeatedly loving the adaptations and Jinx builds. We see the rapid fire come in because Honey identifies, especially with this gold lead, wants to be sieging as much as possible. And I think the rapid fire really benefits that. We're seeing them, they use it effectively in mid lane. They're trying to get as much potential damage turret damage even on map to continue to press their lead, because with each turret that goes down, it gives MT more space to continue to create vision around this bot side to secure them that soul that they're fishing for.
And I mean, it secures more space for Jet and for once as well to move into this jungle and surprise anyone that they find there. And it's probably not going to be a particularly pleasant surprise.
Yep.
If you run into this Akali. Kaito might be experiencing that just now, as those 5-point strikes deal a fair bit of damage. The perfect execution wasn't quite up for Jet, but you know if it was, he is diving forward.
Yeah, Jet is playing fantastically in tandem with this team too. I think the big thing is pressure out Nemo. Because Flash has been used basically on cooldown from Nemo, he's unable to set up this vision in bot side or continue to establish vision. It means that actually when we look at blue side vision as a whole, it's looking rather stunted.
There's not too much there, but they haven't been able to. They've just been continually forced out. We see it once again as Once is forcing into the enemy jungle, and this is a little bit cleaner than we saw from Sengoku in summer. These new players that they've brought in are really starting to gel, and Kassin once again on a flank angle, but this is very, very deep, and Honey is nowhere near you. He's forced to flag and drag out, and that means he's just going to take more of his HP in damage. It's a nice attempt, but you just don't have the position to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be a back and forth for Kassin to continually find space to walk in and get into these flank options, but then for his team to also find the space to walk up and potentially look for them. So hopefully Kassin can continue to avoid getting picked off here whilst this is happening, because especially now that we're hitting 20 minutes, Baron was spawned now, and you look at the potential DPS option from SG, a single kill could very easily rotate into an early Baron for this team, and they're looking for it again. Just look at the pressure. He dashes in, no other team members actually in position, but because of the vision, they have to respect and continually walk back.
And granted, Sengoku are playing like this against one of the teams that maybe we were thinking are going to be a bit weaker in the split.
Yep.
But this is some damn good League of Legends. It
Absolutely.
is controlled, it is disciplined, it is a deep TP into the backline from Jet. Kassin isn't going to be able to commit to this Baron, but it's a fair chunk onto Once and onto Honey. In goes Kaito. Cask onto 2 as well, but look at Jet on the backside, finds the Shuriken clip onto Kassin, but that's not the target that you necessarily want to be hitting. Gets the assassination down onto Kaito, and now CGA are split. The Baron goes to Sengoku, and there's 3 members of the blue side on the wrong side. The 8 keeps Honey alive for a moment longer as Hybrid picks up the first kill of the fight. fight for CGA, flashes forward, but doesn't quite have the damage to take out any more members. Yes, Honey will drop, and Nema pops himself over the wall, but he will not be alive for much longer. Sengoku, Ace, and a Baron.
Fantastic fight for them. This flank from Akali means that CGA, whilst we saw an initial fantastic Shadow Surge come out from Kaito, that disengage from NT, plus then we're going to see here this TP come in so strong. I think he did such a fantastic job of creating so much space for his team, because you can see here SG really chunked out here. Shadow Surge comes in and this team gets separated. It's looking really good for CJ, but Jet pops into the scene, perfect execution, and suddenly CJ group up and they all move back, and this means that Kassin gets locked into Baron Pit. On top of that, the amount of damage from Akali means one kill gets picked over. The second for Honey is they pick off Kassin, who's locked into Baron Pit. They pick up the Baron, and then it's a 3v5 for this team comp. They do find the return kill eventually onto Honey, but it's 5-1. Ultimately, a fantastic fight for SG.
As another good one for
Oh
Sengoku. Oh, Jet, you are making an excellent first impression, son.
He's feeling himself on maybe one of the
is.
best champions you can be playing this patch, but nonetheless looking incredibly dominant. And it's through just playing on knife's edge, repeatedly using perfect execution to force summoners out, and this in turn has led to so many successful plays that they're hunting out Nema.
Yeah, and he's going to be caught out. Nema pops over the wall. Crescent Guard used very early into the fight, but it's just going to be a single kill. Gives the reset to Honey. Bonus attack speed. Tower going down. Inhib going to be the next focus.
And whilst they're pressuring this out, Kaito's on top side. They have no wave clear to help limit this Baron. Paz has already got this wave down on bot side too. This is double inhibitor, potentially unlocked for SG, as they do get a little bit of standing gold. They get that bonus bounty into the top lane turret, but we don't know how much it's going to have in terms of value, because look at this. Double inhib down, and look at the siege potential coming out from SG. This could be potentially game ending with 4 seconds on Nema to respawn.
Yeah, they will just back it out though. Soul Point available in a few seconds time, and if you are a CGA fan right now, you are inhaling copium, hopium, whatever it is, in amounts that are probably not good for your health. 12,000 gold lead for Sengoku. Double inhib down at 24.5 minutes, like you already mentioned. Soul Point as well. This is basically as good a start as you could want to your LJL 2022 career.
Also fantastic for, this is SJ's ideal spot to be pressuring up. With a first inhib unlock, this gives Jet free access to play aggressively within that lane without fear of potential turret dive coming into action, you know, any turret counter damage. But with double inhibitor, this means that Paz can solely remain in the top lane, push this wave in, and then the Jet and the rest of his team can play together to push in this mid and bot side and create more pressure around the Baron respawn that's coming in the next 2 minutes. Why are you laughing? What's going on?
Oh, no, Melvin Isleworth just sent me a picture of the Sengoku logo going, Sengoku send their regards. and I mean, it's been a dominant performance by them so far. A couple of individual members of CGA, well, one individual member, Hybrid, has been standing strong, still sat at 3-1 with a CS advantage. Is not what I necessarily expect out of this Aphelios. He's been playing well on 3 items, but fundamentally, the rest of his team is so far behind, and Honey can just outrange him with these rockets, with this rapid fire cannon, that he's never really been able to find proper access. Once flayed up with the Everfrost as well to lock him in place. Takes 60% of his HP, but look at Jet here, just cheating down towards the bot side, recognizes that he could pull multiple members of CGA away from this tower and free up the siege for Sengoku.
Yeah, it's really up to Jet now to dictate how they want this fight to happen. So long as he remains relatively safe in this lane, but still there to potentially pressure for the 5v5, this can mean SG could unlock this third turret. And once this third turret is unlocked, it will be doomed for CGA. This is their turning point. Death Sentence lands onto once.
But still, it's not a priority target. It's not a Jinx. It's not an Akali. And so unless you start hitting these priority targets, ultimately you can't follow forward, you can't find the engage, and Honestly, this game looks a little bit out of your hands at this point, and I love what Sengoku are doing here. They're not retreating, they're not backing off, they are keeping CGA penned in their base. They know that they've got the advantage, and they are looking to continue the pressure. Inhib Tower is finally going to be the focus as Honey is looking to throw this one down. Half HP on the Jinx, but I don't think he really cares about that too much, as once dives into the backline. Big Rockets onto the other side. The super mega death rocket does go wide, though. No members of CGA falling down, but their base is in tatters.
Yeah, that's all 3 inhibitors now down. Mid lane and bot lane inhibitor are going to respawn shortly as Hybrid's aggressing onto Jet. But the thing is, Baron under a minute as the Aphelios ulti just barely misses onto Jet, and this means that even scarier for them now, because with this top lane inhibitor being unlocked to Baron in under a minute respawn, I wouldn't be surprised to see SG unlock that again, and we're going to see how Sengoku can look to close this game up.
Yeah, it's playing by the numbers at this point. The real question for Sengoku is not whether they win, or if they win, it's how they win. How they've been playing for the last sort of 10-15 minutes has been exceptional, right?
Yep.
They need to continue that. They need to keep it looking clean, get these waves shut out, use the pressure from those super minions. Obviously, because you've taken all 3 inhibs, you have got 2 of those down now. Kassin, not really where he wants to be. Jet proto building forward, pops into the shroud. Execution used, and Kaito might just be the next target. Welcome to the LJL, Jet. You are looking exceptional.
He's having a performance of a year on this champion. Fantastic here. Forces out Kassin in a 1v2 as the one player who would be contesting this Baron, which means it gets unlocked for Sengoku again. And Crest Gaming are left sitting about how they're going to potentially be handling 6 siege minions come in at the same time with this triple inhib pressure come in.
With the Baron buff too, they could probably just take your base by themselves, but Sengoku not going to be forced to rely on that. As once dives forward onto Nap, gets a fair chunk onto him as Nexus Tower number 1 falls down, and that's going to prop the Get Excited passive, but Jinx gets eaten up, and now Nap will be the focus. Kaito diving into the backline, Paz grabbing another kill. Kassin will fall on the Fountain Hybrid, trying to do everything he can, but it's not going to be enough. Sengoku, in commanding fashion, will take their first win of 2022.
And yeah, very clean coming out from this comp. Only single kills across the board for Sengoku, or single deaths across the board for Sengoku. A fantastic performance that's done. I think especially, look at their draft. Look at the way that they managed to slot the Jinx in here. We saw it struggle in game 1, but in tandem with a very dive-heavy, Akali Zinzao come in across with the Graves, which really did a good job of handling and dissipating that pressure Gragas can have in team fights. Fantastic overall from this team. Very good performance, especially for Jet, who I've been looking at LJL mid laners. Who am I going to be looking towards to really inspire me now that Arya's gone? Well, somebody's caught my eye now.
Oh, absolutely beautiful performance from the Akali. It is one of those champions that looks very flashy and very, very cool, but you still have to play it well. And he did that. Shout out to Paz too in the top lane. This guy was just taking names on the Graves, building advantages in the lane, able to scale, able to translate those 2 advantages on the map as well. The way that he played about that attempted gank from Kassin was just absolutely perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah, the ultimate handling of those top lane skirmishes, as well as how the teams, when they rotated from skirmishes to full team fights, they handled it really cleanly.
Yeah, and I mean, on the other side, CGA, not a great game from them, if we're being perfectly honest. Hybrid, though, looked all right, and I think that's a key thing. It wasn't quite the clean game that necessarily we would have wanted from them, but at least Hybrid's looking good, and hopefully in the next few games, in the next few weeks, they can work on that synergy a bit and really get it together. We are going to be popping to a short break now, but stick around. We'll see you in a few minutes. Oh, absolutely. As a member of the CGA faithful, I can't help but be hurt by that game. But Sengoku looked genuinely good. And I don't think it was a case of CGA not quite being at the level. I think there was actually some genuinely good play there. We'll touch on it in a little bit, but some of the rotations, some of the team play, especially around Jet, was a lot higher level than I expected them to have. Week 1, game 1 for them.
It was really fun actually, and even through the shreds of we saw the fantastic play coming from Sengoku. We saw shreds of a really good play coming from Crest Gaming. Obviously, Hybrid was a big standout for them in terms of overall performance. But even once they were on the back that they did that top lane play and it still failed. They actually managed to find a little bit of success in bot lane with this early TP coming in from Nap and finding that Drake alongside with the first turret. It's almost like we saw a comeback potential for them as they got swiftly scraped away by Honey repeatedly. Just disgusting play, to be honest. Hmm. Yeah, it was fantastic to see them replay off of what was, they were in a very kind of precarious position. They try and do the play onto Paz, and I think Paz played that play fantastically. But immediately coming back in with the TP to secure some more place on the map before it got taken away from them again.
Quite hard, and it wasn't a complete smash. There were moments of brilliance. We look to see those in coming weeks. Now let's talk about how good Sengoku were. My favorite thing to do. We saw I've written down on my notes a masterful flank. We saw like Jet from Valorant pull out the Blade Storm just mid-team fight. The entirety of CGA wiped a middle cut. How did you see that come to pieces?
Well, do you know what? Like, Jet flanks were like, Mum, can we have some flanks? And then like the flanks that we've got at home are what Kassin was doing. But it was really great stuff from Jet, honestly. And this is sort of the plays that touched on a little bit earlier, integrating into the team. Those deep TP flanks are things that require a lot of coordination with your jungler, with your support, with basically everyone to set up the required vision. The timing, obviously, on Jet to execute that play is crucial, and getting the wards deep enough so that they're not going to be swept out is also very important. And the thing about the fight around that Baron is it actually looked pretty good for CGA until Jet shows up in the backline and just starts throwing knives and kunais at people.
As you do. Oak, we've spoke of that strategy of those deep pink wards that went unscanned. How did you see Sengoku execute something we wouldn't expect to see in week 1? And after that, walk us through how you want them rather to try and continue that through the weeks, as we do see teams go up and down generally through the regular season.
Yeah, whoever's in control of the vision placement from Sengoku was handling not just that Baron. The Baron's a standout because we get to see, as you mentioned, those repeated pings come out deep in the enemy jungle for Crest Gaming. But just in general, the vision control coming out from NT in terms of how their aggressive placement, as soon as these tier 1s were taken, that vision line moved up, and that was used in tandem with Jet and his rotations to repeatedly play on the aggression and keep summoners down on Crest Gaming, which is a fantastic tool for them to continually aggress. So I was loving the vision control coming up from Sengoku. I think we'd want to see that continually mirrored, and especially once they play against maybe some of the better teams in the split, we're going to have eyes on how maybe without finding concrete early leads like they did in that game, how NT and Want are going to continue to keep vision control up, because remember, it's that constant combination of early game prowess leading into vision control.
That's the way we want to see it done. Thank you, Oak. And I've got 2 final notes from this game, and then we could chat a bit more generally or bring up anything you guys want to. Honey took down Nemo in lane. The split of these two from last summer, they played so well together. And unfortunately, Honey took the upper hand going into spring.
Well, unfortunately for them, I'd say that Honey's quite happy about it. And honestly, I feel like Sengoku may have got the better end of the split here because Nema it had a rough game. I think ended up 0-5-4. And I know I hyped up the Thresh, and I know, Oak, that you've gone, well, what are you talking about? I said that this would happen at some point. We'd hype something up, and then it would just fall flat on his face. Nema's better than this game. He didn't show the play that we've seen from Summer. That bot lane definitely wasn't just Honey carrying. Nema was putting in his fair share, so I'd hope that in the sort of coming days and the coming weeks, we see him up the level a little bit. Hybrid actually looked pretty good this game, so I feel like there's the potential for a solid bot lane pairing right there, but it is going to require Nema to make that little bit of a step up.
Yeah, on top of that, we want to see them play around their drafts a little bit better because remember, the Gragas got shut down so early on in this game. And I think really, we're really looking towards, if you're going to be drafting into champions that spike more in mid game, get the play into it really. And because Gragas and because Nab was always on the back foot that game, it really limited how much their draft could affect team fights because Gragas was never able to find effective targeting.
So maybe something a bit more, a bit less weak side, a little less of a sponge in that top lane, as we know from Worlds, from Flandre especially, that Graves brutally effective into these spongy tanks. And we saw that in his auto attack restoring more of a third of his health. Thanks, thanks, Paz. Yeah. It was a bit of a show.
Yeah, I'd love to see the adaptations come out from the Graves. I think, you know, going into the lifesteal build there meant he had so much control of the game. Paz did a fantastic job that game.
Middlecott, feelings about Graves top lane? No, never mind. You're allowed not to have feelings. My final sort of remark is in one of our, to leak some behind the scenes content in our caster meetings, we're sort of explaining teams and histories. I mentioned, between me and Melvin is when we mentioned that Sengoku always look like poetry. They can look good, they can look bad, but Lord, they will always give you feelings, whether it be, oh, that was a brutal defeat and the players look really upset, or wow, we weren't expecting that. What a way to start off your Spring 21 with such a fantastic victory across multiple lanes. Jet looked so good. It wasn't just the Honey show, and Paz with the dominating performance as well. We're going to go to a break. We're going to say goodbye to Middlecott and Oak. We're going to say hello to Echo KO and RMC after the break. Lend all our casters your energy, guys. We'll see you in just a few minutes for SoftBank Hawks versus Axis game.